So welcome everybody this morning. This is the fourth webinar in this 7-week bootcamp created to help you grow your micro or small business by identifying and marketing to your ideal customer or your ideal client. And as I frequently say, I'm totally confident it will change your approach to business and will build a strong foundation for your success and growth, and that this will change your life. So I encourage you just to turn off the distractions. Don't try to multitask. I can tell when you're multitasking, and I know that we're often very, very tempted to try and do other things whilst we're listening. But I really encourage you to give yourself the gift of focusing on your business for these 60 minutes. So take a moment now. Let's just take a deep breath and bring ourselves completely present. Breathe in, focus, and breathe out any frustration or thoughts or annoyance or distraction or ideas about what else you could be doing. Feel yourself becoming totally present and connect with your purpose of being on this call today. Again, a reminder to take lots of notes and to do this, as I say, slightly differently than you would if you were in an ordinary class, because you don't need to write down what I say, and follow the ABC principle of taking notes. A for action category, B for blinding flashes of the obvious, and C for I need further clarification on this. And when you have your questions, please make a note of them and email them through to me so that I can answer them. Your questions will serve not just you, but they will serve the whole group. And today's webinar is again quite dense, a lot of concepts and ideas, some of which may be new. So today we're going to be talking about who is your one, the one person you will be speaking to in all your marketing. The clearer you are about who that person is, the more you know about that person, the more you understand that person, the more they will hear your message. Your message will be loud and clear to this person. So we really need to know what's motivating them. So just while I click into the next slide, set a powerful intention for your learning on this webinar. Just before I talk about the two big motivators, I'm just going to check that I've got people here. Yes, that's good. I've muted you all, but if you do have a question and you want me to answer it, please put your hand up at the end, or put your hand up and I'll come back to it. So welcome everybody. All right, so today we're talking about who is your one and the two big motivators. So we're motivated by two things we either want to have or things that we don't want to have. And these are behind, all of our decisions. I talk about a value proposition as opposed to any other way to describe this. Oh, gone back a slide. In the exercises for this week, you will be working through your ideal customer's pain and their pleasure. And once we get really, really clear on this, we can create succinct and compelling value propositions. It doesn't need to be clever or smart. It needs to be attractive and completely compelling to your ideal customer. So, there was this value proposition or USP or something that Avis had. We try harder. well, really, who cares? You know, who cares whether they try hard? That wasn't a compelling proposition. There's one that comes up frequently these days, it seems, which is Pack and Save, you know, New Zealand's lowest grocery prices. That's a very compelling proposition for people on limited budgets who care about how much they're having to pay each week for their grocery prices. And it leaves the competition squabbling over, you know, who's got the widest aisles or the best checkout process or system, you know, or even freshest. But the interesting thing is that Pack and Save, with their lowest grocery prices, and are even able to jump on this value proposition of freshest, because they can say, because it comes goes out the door faster, you know, it comes in the door faster, so it's still freshest. And I'll give you some more examples of these at the end. But in order to develop a value proposition that allows you to shine and be attractive and attract, you know, like a magnet, your ideal customer, we need to know them better than they know themselves, so that they feel we know them well enough, they can trust us. And when we come to offer our solution to their problem, we have overcome all the barriers and objections that they might have. And we can do this effortlessly, and they don't even realize we're doing it. And when that happens, selling becomes a seamless transition from a conversation to an agreement to move forward and take you up on your offer or your solution. So, I don't know whether any of you will recognize this. I was going to say young man, but now he's about 40, he's in his 40s now. But this is Neil Ieremia, who's a graduate of the National Diploma of Contemporary Dance, and he's now an internationally acclaimed dancer and choreographer. And why have I got his image up here on the screen? Well, the thing is, people buy a result. They don't buy a process. At the school, we offered Neil the opportunity to be a dancer. That was all he ever wanted. We did not try to sell him on endless hours of pain or endless hours in the studio doing exercises, excruciating critique of his form and his technique, because he hadn't had any formal training when he came to the school. But the other side of this is that we're motivated to buy by the why behind the result. This is the thing that we really care about, why we have created our offering. Yeah, we, the business owner. I call this this is your value proposition. The school's value proposition to Neil was, you can be a dancer, whether you've had dance training or not. We at the school believed in the innate creativity of every person and did not believe it was limited to a very special few. Yes, some are particularly talented, and indeed Neil turned out to be one of those. But he and many, many others responded and continue to respond to the why, which is, we believe in the innate creativity of people and that you can do what you really, really want to do if you dedicate yourself to that. Now, in about 1943, I think, about halfway through last century, an American psychologist, Maslow, described human needs in the form of a pyramid. And this has informed much of our understanding of human psychology since that time. And he put the most basic needs at the bottom and the most aspirational needs at the top. So you can see that, just breathing or having food and water. He included sex, their sleep. Those physiological needs are right at the bottom. And then we have security, of employment, resources, family, health, property, etc. And then we have love and belonging. Then we have esteem, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others. And then right at the very top, we have things like morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, acceptance of facts, etc. And from this hierarchy, which is still used today, we can create a list of things that people will pay to have go away. and the kinds of results people will pay to attract or have in their lives. So this is a very powerful list. So on this next screen, here's a list of some of the things that people will pay to have go away. It's not an exhaustive list, and in actual fact I have I've compiled this as a result of a list that one of my coaches shared with me, Ryan Eliason, whose Visionary Business Mastery program I've been working through. So what I would like you to do right now is take a minute and write down all the things from this list that could apply to your ideal client or customer. Everything that could result from them taking on your offer. So make the list, do it now. And if anything else comes to mind whilst you're writing those things down, note that down as well. I'll give you about, a minute or so to make this list. The task is, from the list, which one of these things that people don't want to have happening in their lives could go away if they bought your offer? So it could be either a result that they get or even a benefit of a result. And if you think you've exhausted the list, then just put your hand up so I can see, and we can move on. Thank you. That's why we're waiting for a couple of others to see if there's anything else on that list that would go away if people bought what you have. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. All right. So let's take a look at what results people will pay for. So what results or benefits? What's the ultimate result or primary benefit? And what from this list would people get? And again, I'd like you to take a minute now to write down all the things from this list that could be a result or a benefit of that result if they bought what you offer. And again, add in any others that come to mind whilst you're doing this. And when you're done, if once again you wouldn't mind just putting up your hand to let me know. I just do want you to, to give you the chance to make this list. A very powerful list, and you can use it in doing the exercises that are coming in this week's worksheets. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so great. All right. So I had fun putting this webinar together, researching graduates of the School of Performing and Screen Arts. And here's another one, Sarah Wiseman. I don't know whether you, again, recognise. But because I'm talking about the one person, I decided that images of people would be a powerful way to express this. So Sarah came to us at the School of Performing and Screen Arts because, again, of our value proposition, which was slightly different for actors than it was for dancers. And our value proposition was we will train you as a stage and a screen actor. So she was attracted by that specific proposition, and it was unique at that time in New Zealand. So working through who is your one person. You've done your target market exercise so you know whether they're male and female. Now I want, and you probably, when I asked you to do how old they were, you probably gave a range. What I'd love you to do now in identifying one person that you're going to speak to is specifically, is this person 33 or 45 or 42? And specifically, because many of you will have said they could be either male or female, the person that you are talking to, are they male or are they female? And again, specifically, are they single or married or divorced or separated? And I know some of you studied with the, I know some of you struggled with the question of, so what high school did they go to? But, what did your ideal person, the person that you will connect with, what did they study? And how educated are they? I mean, by that, how in our formal education system, what level did they get to? This will help you with language. This will help you with concepts, ideas that you include in your sales process and in your marketing. How simply do you need to describe things? And when they're working, is it their own business? And if it is their own business, what do they do in that business? And how would this person describe themselves? What are their goals? 5-year goals, 10-year goals, or immediate goals? What are their dreams and aspirations? And what obstacles stand in the way of these dreams and aspirations? Now, there is an exercise in the in your online program that will allow you to put this down on a piece of paper. But I really want you to get very, very specific about who is your one person. And what ultimate outcome does this one person want from your product or service if he or she were to buy it? You can also think about what behaviours are typical of this person. In your target market exercise, I asked you to think about, do they do sports, or do they have toys, or do they have a second home, etc. But what behaviours are typical? And possibly, what does this person like to read or watch? In the target market exercise, I asked you, do they have season tickets to theatre, etc. But if they do have season tickets to theatre, what do they go to see? And if they don't, what are they reading or what are they watching on television? So, and what does the person value most? And what is this person's name? I really encourage you to give this person a name and make them really real. All of this is important so that you can stand out even in a crowded marketplace to your ideal person. So often when our offering is a service, we are in a crowded market. But the more specific you can be, the less competition you will have, the more focused your time and energy will be, the more accurately you will identify unmet needs of your ideal customer. This is really, really important. The more accurately you will identify specific unmet needs of your ideal that you can speak to, needs or desires. Your marketing will be targeted, which will of course maximize your returns. You will be able to speak about product features much more clearly because you will speak about not only the features but the benefits of those features. And you will be able to optimize, your team members' time and even suppliers and advisors' resources and deliver much more relevant customer service, service that matters and makes a difference to your ideal. Okay, what we're looking for is the sweet spot. Yeah. All this work to identify your one person to whom you can address all your marketing is, I know it's iterative, but we do need to approach it from as many different angles as we can so that we can shed as much, if you like, light on it as possible. So the sweet spot is where your skills and expertise, your ideal customers and their big problem intersect. Yeah, that spot in the middle. That's what we're aiming to get. I'm going to use the word clarity again, absolute clarity about. If you understand all of those things, you will be able to touch on what's called the emotional buying motivator of your ideal customer, the thing that is behind the, sits in the limbic brain, not the neocortex. The neocortex is the outside part of the brain that's all about justifying, it's all about facts and figures. It's the newest part of our brain. But what we want to do is we want to connect with the limbic part of the brain, which is the bit in the middle of the brain, because that is the older part of the brain, and that's the part of the brain that's motivated by the why. It's why we want to get to these emotional buying motivators, because the limbic brain is the emotional part, and it controls behavior and decision making. So behavior and decision making don't happen in the neocortex, which is where language was developed and sits. Our decision making actually sits in the limbic part of the brain, right in the very, very middle, and it's the emotional part. So we want to be able to connect in with that emotional motivators. Okay. So you have two main exercises to do this week. The first one is to find some ideal prospects, or if you're already in business, your very best customers, if you already have them, and interview them. There's a set of questions inside your online program so that you can find it there. It's just a Word doc, which hopefully will make it easier for some of you to use. You won't be restricted in terms of filling in the answers there. So you're going to interview these people, and then on the screen you'll see a rough outline of some of the questions that you're going to be asking them. What you want to do here is you want to get their words. How would they describe their problem? And how would they describe their dream solution? and how would they describe what's in the way of achieving their dream solution and what it's costing them. Because whilst we can do a lot of work from the outside in, if you can interview some of your best clients or your ideal prospects and get their words, these are powerful to be used in your marketing. So you're going to also ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important it is for them to solve this problem. And what will change when they solve it. And you can repeat this question as many times as you like so that they really connect emotionally with the result and you capture that information. And what would it be worth to you to solve this problem? So all of those questions are on, and a couple more are on the sheet inside your program. I encourage you to go there and do the exercise and to find 3 to 5 of your ideal prospects or current best customers and do this exercise with them. The second thing that you're going to do is, once you've read the PDF in the program, there's an exercise that I call the flat tire exercise, and there's an MP3 recording of me talking through the flat tire exercise because it really works for many people if they can actually just listen to it and then imagine it as they're listening to it. So this exercise is taking you through a process of listening to a metaphor, a story about someone who is your ideal customer and what's happening to them, to help you put some words around their problem. But if you've done the first exercise of interviewing the questions, then this exercise is again, as I said, iterative, but it will deepen and help you bring it to life. Now, I put this in here today because one of the questions I often get asked is about how big, are there enough customers with the problem that I want to solve? And it's true that the bigger the problem is for people, the more clearly you can help them understand how what you offer solves the problem, the easier your sale will be. So if you think back to that hierarchy of needs, we will pay more the further up that hierarchy of needs our result or the benefit of our result is. So it is important to know whether there are enough people with the big problem in the world that you actually want to solve or that your offer or solution solves. But if your solution costs $100 and you want to earn $100,000, you need to find 10,000 people to buy your solution. And if your solution is $200, then you only need to find 5,000 people to earn the same amount. The reason this is important is that the more benefits that you can show from your offer, the higher your price can go, because people will be paying for the result and they'll be paying for the why, and you're not trying to sell on what you do or even how you do it. You're selling on the result, the benefit, and your big why. So again, I encourage you to really apply yourself to both of the exercises in this week's worksheets. The worksheets will help you find language to differentiate yourself. So what's differentiation got to do with it? Well, even in a crowded market, and some of you I know are offering products that, you do have a lot of competition. We can and must differentiate ourselves. So here's an example here of these 3 images is a business that's just down the road from me, and Maureen Maxwell, who whom I've known for many years, built a cafe called Bees Online, but her real business was selling honey. And honey is a fairly competitive market, and she differentiated herself by selling honey for very specific purposes. So she didn't just sell honey, she sold medicinal honey or culinary honey, mainly medicinal honey or culinary honey, or very, very high quality honey, which was, she found the market for that in high net worth individuals, both here in New Zealand, and then her secondary market, which became her main market, was in Japan. And Maureen made herself an absolute fortune by selling honey. So, you know, even with a commodity such as honey, it's possible to differentiate yourself. And you can differentiate yourself through some of your features, or through some of your packaging, through your promotion, through the experience people have when they deal with you, through pricing, or through your positioning in the market. And so think about which one of those 6 things is going to be the best one for you to use in terms of creating your significant point of difference in your marketing. Will it be the experience people have for you, or will it be pricing? Or will it be packaging? I mean, really, that's what Maureen did in terms of Bees Online. It was really packaging, and of course some of the features that she built into that, and then how she promoted it. So those were the things that made her, I don't know, a very wealthy woman. So here's another example that you may know. Domino's Pizzas. Now, Domino's, you may know the story, but Domino's Pizzas were, you know, in America, and pizza was a very, very crowded market in America. But they worked out that their ideal customer was sitting at home with hungry kids probably, and that there was an opportunity to sell based on this value proposition, which was hot in 30 minutes. So you've got hungry kids or teenagers or younger kids, and you just want to get them fed. Well, pizzas delivered to you hot in 30 minutes or you don't pay was an extremely powerful motivator. Notice the emotional motivator in there of or you don't pay, connecting with the big why, which was I've got to feed my kids in a hurry and I don't have time or energy to do that. So again, Domino's Pizzas, they dominated the market pretty quickly because of this in the home delivery pizza market. Another one here is a New Zealand example. Again, I'm using examples that are commodity products so that you can see how commodity products really, it is possible to differentiate even on a commodity product. If we discover what's unique and remarkable about ourselves and what our ideal customers, our ideal clients will value. So why they would want to tell their friends about you. How can you stand out? What can you claim in terms of results and benefits without sounding arrogant and, you know, without, still being authentic and doing it with a great deal of integrity. And Lero 9, which is a business that some of you know that I coached, their value proposition is evolving e-commerce. Now, their ideal customer is someone who is in e-commerce but who wants to be at the leading edge. So notice how that value proposition of evolving e-commerce connects with that big why, which is similar to Apple's big why. We want to be at the leading edge. We want to make a difference. We want to sell into major global markets. That's what their ideal customer wants. So that's what they developed their value proposition around. Well, that's all I've got for you today. The 2 exercises in your program are there. Let me know if you have any problems with those or any questions with those. Please, I really want to know. If you do have a question now, I'm happy to take a question. We've got some time this morning. Yep, okay, I will stop the recording because I want just to record this part of it and answer questions.